I was trying to heal and doing the right things, trying to be someone that could advocate for other women online, whilst it makes me want to cry a little bit, whilst deep down suffering in myself and escaping from myself because I didn't know how to live properly. And I think it was such a lonely time.
Honestly, Marlin, I read about what you've been through and I just think you're such an inspiration because you must have people say that all the time to you. But what you've gone through, it's just like a lot of people wouldn't go through one of those things in a lifetime, and you've had it all happen to you. How do you stop it from sort of, I guess, like not making you? How does it stop you from not carrying a grudge around with the world?
Um, it's making sure that I had to snap out of a victim mentality. And
Mm.
that's what kind of put me on pause for a while. I was in this mentality of why was this happening to me? Why me kind of thing, the why me attitude. And living in that kind of way made life quite miserable for me. And it kept me in like a dark pit. So I had to recognize that and get out of it.
So, what was the moment for you that changed things, and you knew that you had to get everything sorted? You had to dig really deep to begin that healing journey.
So for me, it all started when I say when my mum died. I kind of went a bit, I disassociated from the world quite a bit and didn't understand what grief was. My dad died when I was younger, so I didn't really grasp it until my mum had died. And so I went on this journey. It was a year after Love Island, and I remember just partying and drinking and being around the wrong people. And I just remember being in a bit of a vicious cycle with like partying and stuff. And I think I always had it in me when it came to my relationship with alcohol. Like I would never drink in the morning or in the afternoon unless it was like a brunch. But once I had one, a chemical, the dopamine would be released in my brain, and I'd be like, right, let's just go. Let's have loads of drinks, and I would never be able to stop. And I think before my mum died, that was a teenage partying, like a teenager partying, and it was the norm, right? When I lived in Dubai and I was cabin crew, and I'd be having fun, going to all these clubs and parties and the glamorous lifestyle after Love Island. But the alcohol then got used in a different way after my mum had died. And so instead of me reaching for a drink and being like, oh, this is fun, I'm going to have a party, this was me escaping now, escaping who I was and running away further from myself. I was trying to heal and doing the right things, trying to be someone that could advocate for other women online, whilst it makes me want to cry a little bit, whilst deep down suffering in myself and escaping from myself because I didn't know how to live properly. And I think it was such a lonely time because all I wanted to do was have my family around me and have a really nice relationship. And I think I just didn't want to be in me anymore. I didn't want to be in my head. And I think I used alcohol to escape. So the rock bottom for me was when Zaya's dad left when she was around 2 months, and I had to navigate co-parenting. And I want to say this because I know a lot of mothers go through it. Now with alcohol, it's a depressant, and it's not talked about enough in women. I think women are binge drinkers more than men. Um, and we normalize a glass of wine on the evenings, right? And I remember so clearly Jared picking up Zaya to take to his mum's house, and she was a newborn baby. And I was like, this is so weird. She should be with me. Why have I lost my mum, my other baby, and why am I having to co-parent with a newborn? So there it was. As soon as she'd leave, I'd drink on the weekend. Saturday would turn up, she'd be away for the night, and I'd just drink, and I'd find a party or find the wrong friends that I had at the time and just escape. And that became a vicious cycle. Every time she'd be gone, I'd want to drink and party. And then during the week, it'd be, wow, Mum Marlin navigating parenthood on her own, struggling still, being half there, half with her, struggling from postnatal depression at the same time, but not understanding or having time to be still because the time that I did had, I'd fuel it with alcohol. Um, and that was my rock bottom because I was then adding in work on top of that, trying to work as a single mum, be a mum to Zaya, and have this image of doing it all. And it was just it's so hard. And you can only put on a mask for so long and try and be strong until it just comes off. The
Really
worst
difficult.
thing for me was I wasn't one that would be able to have that one glass of wine because it was escapism. And then if I had 3 or 4 drinks and I was with the wrong crowd, cocaine would get involved and I wouldn't know when to stop either with that. And it's just such a toxic, dark cycle that so many people go through
Yeah.
and they don't talk about because they're either in denial about it or ashamed about it. And you mix the two substances together, alcohol alone, and your mental health becomes so low and you become suicidal. I remember on my come downs, like there'd be stories on Instagram that I'd post being like, my grief would come back up essentially. On the day after drinking, I'd feel really crap. And then I'd be
Right.
talking, or like, doing these stories like, what is life? Da, 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 da. And I'd be like, whoa, like it'd be up, down, seeking these highs that were fake, and having these really, really low lows and not understanding how to have a balance in life. And for me, balance didn't exist because I wasn't happy in it. And then what you just said, we think happiness comes to us, and actually it was there the whole time. I just needed to know how to access it.
Yeah. I mean, you said it's hard to pinpoint a particular rock bottom, but is there a moment that you do remember that it was that final straw? It was a lot of things, and this was the kind of the final straw with it all.
Yeah, it'd probably be about a year ago. And I remember Xaya had gone to her dad's. My friends were like, oh, let's go out. I was partying, over partying, and it kept happening. Like it was sometimes it'd be once a month, sometimes it'd be once every 2 months, and then it could be every weekend. And I was like, I remember coming home and sat there and I was in tears. My heart was racing, I had anxiety, my nervous system was out of whack. Um, I just didn't feel like I had any purpose anymore. And I thought, why is it that I can balance all these different areas of my life, but I can't seem to grasp this connection with alcohol? I can't. And especially the cocaine after 5, 6 drinks, if that was around me at the time and I was out at a party and I had to be with the wrong people, why would I want to take that? Because that's not who I am. So I literally sat with myself, feeling the lowest of the low. And I spoke to Zaya's dad and I said, I need to go somewhere to get help. And I said, I have therapy. I used to meditate, but not so much. I journal, I do yoga, I go to the gym. I'd lost a lot of weight as well through exercising, eating healthy, changing my lifestyle. What is wrong with this in my brain? And so I spoke to him and he was so great. He was like, right, do you want to go to rehab? And I went, rehab? And I was like, that sounds like nuts for someone like, the ego kicked in for someone like me. Like, do I need to go to rehab? I don't drink every day. I don't wake up and want to drink. Sometimes I can go 2 months without it. And he went, yeah, but Marlin, there's things that are unaddressed here. And so we looked for the right place and it was a holistic retreat. And I was like, okay, that sounds like me. But it was more of like a deep internal therapy retreat. When I say it was hard work, it wasn't just learning about the alcohol and the science behind it. It was literally unpacking all of the weights that were left on my shoulders for all this. And it changed my life massively. And it was hard because it was 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks without Xaya. Jared had her, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I knew to be who I really want to be, I had to do it. And it's weird because people that end up in kind of rehab, they end up drunk and, off their face and stuff. And I was there like, I'm going in sober because I don't really drink. And I was like, what's going on? And when I spoke to the people that work there, they were like, binge drinking, there's still a problem there. And because it is so normalized, and this is why I want to talk about it, people think that it's okay. It could be like, I could have 3 bottles of wine or champagne or whatever, then have shots. And it'd be like a competition with my friends. I could be partying for a day, probably a day max, a day and a half. But so the night would start like around 8, and then I could go out. It depends on who I'd be with. Drugs weren't involved all the time. And if it was with the wrong crowd, drugs would be involved. And I could stay up until like 6 a.m. and then go to sleep, feel and then try and be normal again. And for me, normal would last for a few weeks to a month. and then the cycle would be repeated again. And that's something I wasn't okay with. And a lot of people are okay with that. It's so normalized, and that didn't sit right with me anymore.
If that moment hadn't happened where he'd talked about rehab, or even if time had gone on and if you'd ignored him, if you just carried on, where do you think you would be now, maybe a year later or in the future? Where do you think you would end up?
It'd be the same. It'd be a cycle every month, every 2 months, binge drinking, partying. And I wouldn't have evolved as a person, and I wouldn't be the mum that I am, or wouldn't be the person that I am, or see things differently. Like, I take so much gratitude, and my hobbies have changed. It's so weird. I can see life so much clearer now.
Yeah.
Like, I've always loved the nature and things. I'd be one to say it, do it a little bit, but not fully engrossed in it. And I just, my energy levels are insane. My skin's better. My sleep's better. It's just so weird. Scott bangs on about it all the time, but your life changes without alcohol. It completely does.
Yeah.
I remember the days where I'd wake up with a foggy head, and like your heart's racing, your head's foggy, you're just eating, you feel your dopamine's down here. And that's what I want. I want a lot of mums to know that are struggling or are co-parenting and they don't know what to do themselves. Because I put a post up a while ago, and I said, I feel lost when Xaya's not with me. And a lot commented saying they feel the same. They don't know what to do with themselves. And the loneliness is the worst part. And the loneliness is when alcohol goes, hello, I'm your friend. And it's not your friend. It's the enemy. And it's about sitting with that stillness, that awkward stillness, and being okay with it, and being okay with being with yourself.
Yeah. Maybe this is your calling to do something like this, like set up, and because you were doing your life coaching stuff before, weren't you? So
yeah, I was doing that, but it got so much, like so many people, and then I thought, oh my God, I can't do this individually. Like my brain was getting fried.
Yeah.
And I loved it, but on a larger scale, it'd be amazing. And that's why I use Instagram and use my socials to raise awareness of things. But this one thing, alcohol and drugs, felt like such a taboo for me, and I felt ashamed and guilty about it. And I was like, if people know, if my followers knew that, or it made me feel like, how do I say it? Like shameful of myself. And I thought, so many people do it, are in a bad place from it. So many suicides have happened from cocaine use and alcohol. And so many people in the industry do it and are depressed because of it. And people are in a vicious cycle through it. And it's so normalized. The younger generation do it as if it's a joke. And it is nothing to be messing around with, because it affects mental health more than we know.
Was it an expensive place?
Yeah.
Do you wish that something like this could? Yeah. Do you wish that these really expensive places
£12,000 for 3 weeks or something?
Oh my goodness.
And you know what? Not many people can afford it, and I'm so blessed and lucky that I was able to. But there needs to be somewhere, because for me, the alcohol is a symptom of what is going on in here. It's the mental health part of it. And obviously people can go to therapy and go to all of these things, but to have access to something that is like that should be free of charge or something. There needs to be something better to be put in place.
Yeah.
I want to be sober forever, but I live by day to day. And for me, sobriety changed my life, but it wasn't just a sobriety that changed my life. It was finding myself again through that. So I had to ask myself, what's the truth? What's my truth? My truth is me without anything added on to me. So without anything that takes me away from being myself. Does that make sense? So when your brain is drunk, like on alcohol, you're completely away from being here in the moment. And I love being here right now, like talking to you. I can fully engross in your conversation. I'm listening to you and I can be present. Whereas before it would have been I'm thinking of things that I could fill my time in, like where am I going to be next? What am I going to do? And it feels so nice just being. So I just, it's changed my life in a way where it actually makes me feel sick thinking about it. Like, I don't want to run away anymore.